All right, so it is the second week of PFL playoff action, and this week we are going to be in Cardiff, Wales for the main event, Rory Macdonald versus Macdonald Umalatov for, of course, the welterweight playoffs. The other welterweight playoff fight will be Leal taking on the Swedish Denzel Washington in Sadabu C. In the heavyweight fights, you have got Delija taking on Ferreira, and you got Dennis Goltsov taking on Scheffel. Obviously, those were not the original fights because, well, I mean, it was supposed to be Goltsov versus Capoloza, and then somehow, some way, Ferreira gets in the playoffs instead of Kilton Abreu did, but I mean, whatever, that's besides the point. PFL scoring system is really weird, but yeah, that's PFL 8, the playoff card this Saturday morning in the States, and then of course in Wales, I'm pretty sure it's in prime time, at least I think so. And then you're kicking off this card with 4 prelims and then 4 postlims. We'll get into that in just a few moments. And folks, if you haven't yet, make sure that subscribe button down below for some more PFL here on the channel. We'll have the card next week featuring Kayla Harrison in the main event, and also make sure to go check out our UFC San Diego predictions with Ronchi Vera and Dominic Cruz in the main event. And also, go make sure to check out our Bellator predictions posted earlier today in the main event from Sioux Falls, South Dakota. You got Neiman Gracie and you got Gochi Yamuchi. So I say this every time Bellator has a card not in the States, and I'll be honest with you, I don't really know too much regional talent outside of America, and I'll be straight up honest with you. So take all these picks with a grain of salt. I think I can offer you a pretty good, preview and a pretty good prediction on the 4 fights that the PFL does have for the playoff fights, because I've seen all these guys fight over and over and over again in the PFL season. But some of these guys here, again, I'll watch LFA, I'll watch, Cage Warriors some, but I watch a lot of, even Titan FC, I'll watch those cards, those regional promotions in America. I don't really watch too much regional MMA action in Europe, or I just don't. I watch just some areas and I'll watch some Cage Warriors, but the most, regional MMA stuff I'll watch is LFA, and I'm blanking on some right now, but I'll watch LFA, I'll watch some CFFC, I'll watch some Fury, and I'll watch stuff like that. I don't know how I'll even watch Icon and stuff like that, but I mean, stuff outside of America I don't watch often, so that's why some of these picks, again, kind of just take them with a grain of salt here. So the first fight we have got Hedif Moel, again, I'm not familiar, versus Simon Bahor. Gonna be taking Moel in this fight. I'm gonna take the German fighter. Just from the looks of it, a lot of power in this guy's hands. He hasn't fought the greatest competition, though, which is a little bit concerning. He fought an octagon a little bit, but I mean, this is a big heavyweight who's coming in this fight. I mean, 2 guys who should be trying to knock their opponents' heads off. For his opponent here in Simon, this is a guy, good jiu-jitsu, good submission game. He's got some knockout power as well. Could see this one going either way. I see some people taking the Polish fighter in this one in Bahor, but I'm going to be going with Hedif Moel in this fight. Next up, we've got Chris Mixon. Saw him fight in the Challenger Series for the PFL, and he'll be taking on Christian Stinenberg. For Stinenberg, he's coming off of a win on Fight Club Rush by decision. He's got some power, as you saw in his first a professional MMA fight earlier in 2021, but he's taking on Chris Mixon. He was coming off a huge victory over Nathan Pierce on the second episode of the Challenger Series, knocking him out in the second round. He fought in, Game Bread FC, which is a bare knuckle promotion where he lost in the first round. But other than his fight against Nathan Pierce, he really hasn't fought any competition. He fought some guy who's 0-0 in Empire FC, then 1-3 in Empire FC. His amateur results, I mean, he had 6 fights. He won all of them. I'm going to take Mixon here. I mean, I saw him in the Challenger Series. He impressed me. He's got some power. Really nice combination. He landed against Nathan Pierce to put him down. I think he should be able to win. I'm going to go Mixon to win this one. I think he gets it done in this fight in the second round by TKO, just like his Challenger Series fight. And then after this, we have got Mohammed versus Marcin. For Mohammed, he's 15-4. He's coming off a win on Brave CF. He's been fighting Brave for a while. He's the current Brave light heavyweight champion. He won that in the vacant title fight over Mohammed Seed Malim in his last fight by second round TKO. It was a rematch of their first fight that ended in no contest. He's taking on Marcino Wojcik in this fight, and Wojcik is another one of these guys who's willing to go in there. He's willing to engage in a firefight. He's got a lot. It's a killer be killed mindset for him. A lot of finishes by knockout, but he's been finished as well. Most notably, he fought Modestas Bukauskas back in Cage Warriors in 2019. I think this fight should be pretty entertaining here for the prelims. I will, though, go with Mohammed to win this one by second round TKO. And then finally, we have got Josh O'Connor taking on Emron. Not going to try to pronounce the last name, but for Josh O'Connor, he's 1-0, coming off a win in his first fight on Budo Fighting Championship. Won it. His opponent got injured, but he still won the fight in the first round. He's taking on the Afghanistan fighter here in Emron. Emron is 2-1, coming off a win on Centurion Fight Championship 6. It's a regional promotion in Malta. And, you know, Emron's got a win by ground and pound. He's got a win by rear naked choke. Only professional MMA bout so far in the record for him. I'm going to go Josh O'Connor. He's a pretty big favorite going into this one. I think he should be able to win. He's one of the biggest favorites on this entire card. I got O'Connor to win this one by decision. He's still really young. I think he's only like 22 years old. So I'm going to go with O'Connor to round up the prelims. Okay, so our first playoff fight is here at welterweight. We have got Carlos Leal taking on Sadibou C. Now, Carlos Leal did not get to fight his second fight in the PFL season. It was supposed to be against Alex Sahin, but Alex Sahin withdrew at the last second, and they could not find Carlos Leal another fight. So Leal just automatically advanced with 3 points, and he got 3 points in his first fight when he beat Ray Cooper III. It was a fight where, okay, a lot of people do like the performance out of Carlos Leal in that fight. He looked good in the fight. He, outstruck Ray Cooper. He looked good. He's a big underdog going into that one, but you got to think about it again. Ray Cooper had zero motivation in that fight, and that's just the way PFL works. And other organizations like Bellator and the UFC, okay, Ray Cooper would get 30% of his purse just taken away from him, and he'd go on and he'd fight the fight, and maybe he'd beat Carlos Leal. In the PFL, sure, you have your win money still intact. I think you can still, I'm not completely sure how PFL pays their fighters, but I know you can still get your win money if you win the fight for Ray Cooper, but in terms of the point system, no matter what he does, he cannot earn points. And no matter what happens, Carlos Leal will earn points in that fight. It was the same thing that happened in the Julia Budd and Jenna Fabian fight. Jenna Fabian missed weight. She ended up beating Julia Budd, but Julia Budd ended up getting her points because Jenna Fabian missed weight. So Ray Cooper had zero motivation to go win that fight. He didn't. Carlos Leal won it by decision. Of course, Ray Cooper III came back. He knocked out Brett Cooper in the first round in like 15 seconds. Of course, he's not in the playoffs. But now we get Leal and Sadibou C instead. So I'm just saying though, like, don't get too excited about the Leal win over Ray Cooper III. It's a good win, but I'm just saying, I think Sadibou C's got a really good chance to win this fight. And that's why I'm going to take Sadibou C by decision in this one. I think C's able to win. Look at the way he's able to win his first 2 fights this season. It's really good, man. He beats Alex Sahin by split decision, a fight that a lot of people were, confused, or anything confused, but a lot of people were surprised that C won that fight. When you look at his first fight with Alex Sahin, he's winning before the eye poke happens. And then after that, C goes in and he beats Rory Macdonald. Now, I picked Macdonald. I didn't think Sadibou C was going to win. I thought it was going to be a closer fight than a lot of people thought it was going to be. C wins it by decision, uses striking really well. He's so lanky as a fighter at 170. I think he's able to outstrike Carlos Leal in this fight. If Leal can't put him down, I think C's going to win this fight. I think C's going to, work the body a lot, use his kicks, because he's just, again, such a long fighter at this weight class. An 80-inch reach for Sadibou C. It's an 8-inch reach advantage over Carlos Leal. I think he's able to use his kickboxing. He's able to stay away from big power shots that Leal is going to throw. And I got the Swedish Denzel Washington to advance to his first ever PFL championship fight. I've got Sadibou C to win this one. I got him by decision. So Matus Scheffel is in the PFL playoffs. He's coming in now because of Bruno Capoloza, of course, having to withdraw from this fight against Denis Goltsov. But okay, I know he beat Capoloza. I know that happened, but Capoloza had already clinched a playoff spot going into that fight. It was the same effect to the point where Anthony Pettis lost to Stevie Ray. And this is just the weird sort of conditions you get in a PFL fight, where it's guys knowing that, okay, I'm going to be in the playoffs no matter what. Why would I take a big chance in this fight? I'm going to play conservative, and I don't care if I'm going to win or lose, because I know no matter what, I have a bigger fight ahead of me, especially with the PFL format. Oh crap, this fight's in less than 2 months. I got to be prepared for this next fight. So again, sure, Scheffel beat Capoloza, and it's a good win for him, but it wasn't Bruno Capoloza going at full force. Now you get Denis Goltsov taking on Matus Scheffel. Okay, Goltsov has been really good in PFL. His only loss is Ante Delija in the last couple years. I know he lost to Isaev back in 2019, but the guy's been really good. All right, Denis Goltsov in 2022 has looked really good. He beat Cody Goodale in his first fight, and then he beat Maurice Green, who had John Jones in his corner at the 5th episode of the PFL season. He beat him by unanimous decision. Now, Goltsov should be able to come in here and he's going to knock out Matus Scheffel in the first round. I feel pretty good about it because of Ante Delija, who's got some punching power, but not especially known for the punching power. He's more of a guy who, again, he can win by knockout, but Delija is able to stretch things out and, touch guys up. If Delija is able to sit down Matus Scheffel, Denis Goltsov is going to be able to sit down Matus Scheffel as well. And I think Goltsov's going to win, and I think it sets up potentially for a rematch with Ante Delija. We'll see how Delia's fight goes against Hernan Ferreira, but I think you got to think Goltsov goes in here. I think he puts down Scheffel pretty simply in this fight. I think it's going to be a first-round knockout. He's going to catch him with a hook, sit down Scheffel pretty early. Again, you're not going to see Goltsov, laying off in this fight like Capoloza did against Matus Scheffel. Goltsov's so much better. He's a huge favorite for a reason. Going with, of course, Denis Goltsov to go in there, win this fight by first-round knockout, and punch his ticket to the PFL Championship later in November. So, man, Hernan Ferreira losing to Kilson Abreu is not good. It's really not. Again, with the weird way the PFL scores things, they emphasize getting finishes, and that's what they prioritize. And Hernan Ferreira's knockout of Jamel Jones in the first round in the second PFL card weighs more than Kilson Abreu winning twice over Adam Koresh and then Hernan Ferreira both by decision. It does not make any sense, but Hernan Ferreira is in being 1-1, and now he's taking on Ante Delija. So I think this fight's pretty simple, man. If if Ferreira doesn't knock him out in the first round, I like Ante Delija. If Delija is able to stretch this fight out and win it in the second and the third, I don't think Ferreira really is going to be all that great. We've seen Delija go the full 3. We've seen him still be active late in fights. And yes, Ferreira's going to have a huge reach advantage here. He's got an 85-inch reach, but Delia's a pretty big guy in his own right. He's going to have a 79-inch reach, but it's just Ferreira's so big, man. The guy's 6'8", Delia's 6'5", 2 huge heavyweights going into this fight. But I think you're going to see a striking fight, obviously. I mean, both these guys are known for their striking. I think, again, if Delija just doesn't get caught, he should be able to stay on the outside and just touch up Hernan Ferreira and eventually win a decision. I really do like Delija in this fight, man. I was not impressed in Ferreira's fight against Gilson Abreu. Again, Abreu, though, worked on him against the clinch, wrestled him a little bit again, and worked on him on the feet as well. But when you're a minus 450 favorite and you lose a fight to Gilson Abreu, not the greatest. And I know Abreu looked good in the season, but I think Delija is just better than Hernan Ferreira on the feet. I think his striking is better. You look at Delia's run so far this season. He comes in, his first fight, he beats Matthews Scheffel. He knocks him out like we talked about earlier. Then he beat Shelton Graves. He's supposed to fight Stuart Austin. I mean, Austin's not great. And Shelton Graves isn't great either. But Delija did what he was supposed to do with him. Now, I thought Delija was going to get a finish, and that's why, I don't think he's going to get a finish against Ferreira in this one if he's not able to finish Shelton Graves, who is, 36 years old. Will he be able to finish Hernan Ferreira? Probably not, but I do like Delija here. I think he's able to work the body. I think his boxing is just better than Hernan Ferreira, and if he doesn't get caught with the big shot early, Ante Delija will go on to the championship fight against Denis Goltsov. We will get a rematch of their fight in the playoffs back in 2021 where, Goltsov was a huge favorite going in that one. We will see the rematch for the championship. Delija books his ticket in a second straight PFL championship fight. This time, though, I think against Denis Goltsov. All right, yeah, I'm done picking Rory Macdonald. I just am. I'm picking Magomed Umalatov to win this fight. I pick Rory Macdonald in every single PFL fight he's been in, okay? The Ray Cooper fight, okay, I get he loses, but it's just, man, and he beat Glebson Tito, don't get me wrong, but I don't think Rory Macdonald's the same guy. Him losing to Sadibou Boussy isn't great. He's 33, and he just doesn't look like the same guy he once was. And let's be honest with ourselves, Rory Macdonald has not been the same guy since the second Robbie Lawler fight. He just hasn't been. Now, he's shown some success, but he hasn't been the Red King that was seen in the UFC. Right? I mean, sure, he was all right in Bellator, right? He beats Neiman Gracie, he has the weird draw against John Fitch. We lose to Douglas Lima. He leaves Bellator. He joins the PFL, and the PFL has done a really good job matching up Rory Macdonald against the guys they want him to fight and guys that he can beat. Curtis Millender is a guy he can beat. He came in there, he subbed him in the first round, all right? And Curtis Millender is now a guy who's going to go fight in Unified MMA next month against Katie Buller. It's a weird matchup that's happening, I believe, up in Canada. They booked him against Millender because they thought they could beat him, and he did. He subbed him in the first round. He lost to Glebson Tito. It was a ridiculous fight that the PFL, I mean, you can't convince me otherwise the PFL did not rig that fight to have T-Bow win. Okay, Rory loses it by split decision. It was ridiculous, but the only reason they had T-Bow win is so they could book Roy Macdonald and Ray Cooper III in the main event of PFL 7 playoff card, and Ray Cooper III beat him. That's okay. All right, that's going to happen to you. Ray Cooper won the championship. He beat Magomed Karamov eventually. That's fine. Then Rory goes in, he beats Brett Cooper. He subs him in the first round. The one that stands out, though, is Sadibou Boussy, because there's no controversy in that. And it's not that Sadibou Boussy, I like the guy. I think he's going to be in the championship fight, but it's not that Sadibou Boussy is like a world championship fighter. I mean, he could be this year, but he's just not that yet. All right, and Sadibou Boussy works and he runs circles around Rory Macdonald. I mean, I thought it was a pretty obvious decision for C. I don't know how people scored that for Rory Macdonald. Look at Rory Macdonald's face at the end of that fight. Sadibou Boussy does damage on Rory Macdonald, all right? And that's why I think he's going to do to Carlos Leal. But it's just that Rory now is fighting a month later against a guy who's got heavy hands in Magomed Umalatov. Where will Umalatov knock him out? I don't know. I can see it happening, but I'm taking Umalatov by decision in this fight, all right? I think Umalatov outstrikes Rory Macdonald, and I think we see a hesitant Rory Macdonald here that's not willing to engage because he will still be hurt from that fight against Sadibou Boussy. That was, oh yeah, by the way, just 5 weeks ago? It's the PFL format, man. It is unforgiving. Umalatov's coming off the win over Al-Sawali in his last fight. We knocked him out in the first round. He beat Leandro Silva last year, but he only needed one fight this year in this PFL season to get the playoffs. He got the quick 6 over Al-Sawali, and now here we go. He gets Rory Macdonald. I don't think he's going to knock him out, but I think he'll beat him by decision. I'm afraid to say it, but this is what I think is going to happen. I don't think this is going to be that entertaining of a fight. I think it's going to be somewhat of a boring fight that Umalatov will win. It will be a striking affair that Umalatov is just better than Rory Macdonald is, and I don't think Rory takes too many chances. Umalatov's going to win. Rory will lose the fight, get out of there with his paycheck, and regroup, I guess, for another PFL season next year, which I think will be Rory's last, run as a professional MMA fighter. But I'm going to take Magomed Umalatov to move on to the PFL Championship fight. I like him versus Sadibou Boussy next in November. Yeah, going to go with Magomed Umalatov to beat the Red King by unanimous decision. And just real quick before we end the video, the 4 post-lim fights, I'm just going to give you my predictions. We'll get up on out of here. So we've got, in the first fight, we've got Mokhtar versus Francesco. I'm going to take Mokhtar to win this one by unanimous decision. Next up, we've got Vjoco Barbaric versus Maxim Radu. Again, I'm not familiar with either of these guys in this fight. I'm going to take Barbaric by submission in the second round. Nate Kelly versus Ben Ellis. I am familiar with Nate Kelly. I do like his game a lot. I'm going to take him by first round knockout. I mean, this is one of the fights where, you know, Nate Kelly, of course, fought in Bellator. He was impressive in his win back at Bellator 275, where, I mean, he dominated a guy in Scott Peterson that he was supposed to dominate. He picked up a win most recently. This guy was 8-1. He finished him in the first round by ground and pound. I think Nate Kelly's going to be a pretty good guy, man. I mean, he just dropped his first 2 professional MMA fights, and he's now won 5 straight. I think he's going to make it 6 straight. Beating a guy in Ben Ellis. I mean, Nate Kelly's an SPG guy. Ellis, you know, won his last fight in Cage Warriors, but I do like Nate Kelly a lot in this fight. And in our final fight, we've got Will Fleury taking on Anthony Salomone. I'm going to be taking Fleury in this fight. I think he's a better fighter in this one. I think he'll win it by decision at 185 pounds. And folks, that'll do it for our PFL 8 predictions video here. We'll be back next week for PFL 9. In the main event, of course, Kayla Harrison, well, I mean, I know it's Postlims, but in the main event, Kayla Harrison tries to go back to her world championship fight once more. She'll be taking on Martina Jindrova. Also, Chris Wade versus Brendan Loughnane is a tremendous fight. Lourdes Pacheco versus Olena Kolesnik. I mean, I think you know where that fight's going. And also, Yoji Kudo versus Bubba Jenkins. And the undercard is pretty solid as well. So that's going to be coming up next week from London, England, from the Copper Box Arena. But folks, thank y'all for watching. Make sure to hit that subscribe button down below for more. Leave a like if you did enjoy the video. Go check out our other MMA content here on the channel as well. Links are in the description down below. Again, folks, thank you for watching, and Mamba forever.